don't know me, I'm Paul Manwaring. I'm one of the owners here at Glimworm, and this is my business partner, Jonathan Carter. We've been professionally an organization for 12 years. We've been working specifically with open data only for about 2 years now, right?
Yeah,
but we've learned a lot over the past couple of years because we started fairly early here in the Netherlands versus in the UK, where the data was opening quite rapidly earlier. And so today we're going to share some of our knowledge about the open data landscape. We're going to talk to you about not only just the different European and Dutch organizations that promote open data, but where you can find open data. And also we'll talk about some of our personal experiences about using open data, how difficult it can be, and some of the problems you'll face. So I'll start just with a very brief introduction about how our philosophy and why we are involved with open data. And then I'll give the floor over to Jonathan, who's going to give you a very comprehensive overview of the open data landscape here in Europe. We got involved with open data because basically we believe that there is a future and a business model for open data. You can create apps that do create value for both the government and government organizations and NGOs and the public. And we believe that you can use open data, and we have actually demonstrated that you can use open data to enable the public to discover facts that they otherwise never would know. Our first open data app was Park Shark, which we won the Open Data Picnic hackathon for in 2011. And it took data from the city about parking meter locations, and it took data from Citizen, who's the parking authority, about tariffs. And there's about 8 zones here in Amsterdam.
Yeah, there's.
And it's very, very confusing because you'll have different tariffs, and depending on where you are, and you probably wouldn't know that if you parked right here, right now, you would actually save a lot of money if you parked across the canal. But people don't know that, and so we create an app and an interface that has a map, and people can look and put their location on, and it will show you this is how much you would pay here, but this is how much you pay just 50 meters away. And so it gives you an option as somebody who's involved in the traffic here to make a choice. And you wouldn't, otherwise you wouldn't know this information. There's really no way for you to know. It's not posted anywhere. It's not up on a website. And if it is on a website, you can't use it on a mobile device. So the key for us is to take the data and make it valuable. And that's the trick. It's very hard to do because you really have to appeal to a specific need, whether it's a real need or a perceived need. It may be an urgent need or it may not be an urgent need. I know that Eric's created some value in his apps, especially when it comes to helping people know about energy subsidies. And the government's really bad at publicizing important information, but it's in their best interest to let the public know about subsidies, about opportunities, when it comes to education, when it comes to transportation, democracy. So what they're looking for is they're looking for developers and a community to help them share that information and create the value with data that otherwise doesn't do anything at all. So if you have any questions for me specifically, we can wait till the end. For the time being, I'll give the floor over to Jonathan.
Okay. What we thought would be valuable to everybody, since the theme is the open data and sharing our experience, is that we, over the last 2 years, have come into contact with numerous different organisations, all to do with open data. And actually, we didn't know what any of them did and what the relationship between any of them was. We don't actually know everything about the organisations, and especially about all the different history and the interwoven kind of relationships. But I thought it was really in keeping with the theme, if we just present all of the different organisations we come across and we tell you what we know about them. Eric, who has been working with these people for longer than us, will also just chip in, and maybe if it's interesting to people, just have a very brief discussion, but really it's a series of slides with organisations, and anybody who is going to work with open data, it might accelerate your path if you know more about these organisations. So, I think I'll just ask, who knows the EPSI platform here? Anybody? No, nobody. Okay, okay. We've been valuable. I feel good. After we had got involved with with Park Shark and also with History, which was built on open data, we attended a conference which by chance was in Rotterdam, and it's the annual conference of this group, the EPSI platform. This year it's in Poland, so it's not so easy to get to, but if you can get there, it's going to be valuable to you, especially if you're in this whole open data world.
And it's free. And
it's free to go. The EPSI platform is a gathering place, or the conference is a gathering place for people that have been involved in opening data for more than 15 years. So actually it's quite humbling when you go there and you think that we're talking about open data for a couple of years and we're in a way complaining about the quality of it, and developers often are very kind of demanding about what data they want. Here you realise that there are people that 15 years ago had to start the discussion at European level in the EU about the legality of what data was allowed to be open, with national governments, with having to change European national laws in order to even allow data to be made public. And if you think about the people that are in this conference, they started that discussion before the Apple iPhone came out, before there was Android devices. So they actually were really betting on a very long-term future that this data would be usable in some form. So they were probably thinking just about almost spreadsheets. They were almost thinking about journalists requesting information by email back then. So these people are actually very, very influential. And at this conference, you meet people who are involved in changing, currently still changing, laws which take 1, 2, 3 years to go through European Parliament and have to be voted on, etc. And this is the basis of all the open data that we use. If these guys hadn't have changed all the laws, then it wouldn't be possible. And the most famous person that speaks at this conference is Nelly Cruz, who is the European Commissioner now for open data or for just data?
Open data.
Open data. And she makes last year she made a very kind of inspirational speech that, the data not only has to be open, but it has to be made available to developers at no cost, or at the very minimum bare cost. So it's actually not legally possible for a government department in any European country to put a firewall up in front of themselves unless there is a very deep, very serious privacy issue. It's not possible for them to say, oh, it's going to cost you 100,000 to get this data. The missive that comes down from the very top is no cost, and if there is a cost, it has to only be to do with preparing it or real physical costs of providing that data. And this really blows the whole world open in a way. On this website, you will find a list of dates, right? Paul, you're more familiar with it than me. Paul can just tell you about this a little bit.
Yeah, there's an agenda, and there's a lot of very relevant news items on the homepage. You can follow links to open data events all around Europe: Manchester, Paris, Spain, Italy, if there's anything going on in Europe that has to do with open data, it will be on their agenda.
Yeah, and last year when we went to it, they had these they had these panel discussions. So they had three people typically giving a presentation, like behind a desk, and then people could ask questions, a little bit like this format. And they have some very interesting themes. They had one on data journalism. That's very, very hot topic at last year's conference. All people that make these infographic type graphs, and a guy from Norwegian newspaper that graphed all the richest taxpayers in Norway or something like this, etc. There's another big stream about visualization and graph visualization, and we had the guy was there that made this fantastic documentary called Nederland from Above. If anybody saw it, had high level things, and they traced a bird flying through the air, and he told you how they did it all. He worked for NOS things, the big TV station here, and so there's a lot of really, really interesting people there discussing all sorts of things, and the legal aspects, and there's streams on the privacy aspect, and there's licensing, and there's streams on the ethical side of producing data. There's streams on the when and where you should obscure the private part of the data and allow it to be gone out. Well, anyway, this was really an eye-opener when we went there, and literally there's people from all over Europe there, and it's awesome if you go. So that's number one. I shan't take so long about each of them, but that was really a big eye-opener when we went down. I really felt like these people worked for 15 years to open up the data, and there were we on the last year of it saying, oh, this isn't good enough. No, it has to be in JSON, not XML. I really felt like we were like teenagers or something, like nagging dad. Okay, this one is another organisation, Nederland Open Data, and I don't know anything about it. So Paul.
This is the biggest initiative from the Netherlands Ministry of Economic Affairs, and they created a consortium that's led by Logica and John van Eck, who we speak to from time to time, and they're all about creating business models using open data, because their approach is well, the whole idea about opening up data and the promise of opening up data is that it stimulates the economy. And so the Ministry of Economic Affairs really wants to communicate, and through this consortium of 20 NGOs, including the Waag Society and including Logica, as well as for-profit organizations, is about creating awareness and spreading the word about and creating business models about open data and apps using open data.
Yeah, and on a personality basis, the John van Eck guy, he works for Logica, that used to be CMG, it used to be, it's a big IT firm, and his full-time job is trying to find business models for open data. Full-time, all day. That's what he's paid to do.
And also do workshops with you.
Yeah, and doing workshops. He came here and did a workshop with us, doing like a business canvas around one of our products. He did it for free, so he's paid no matter what. No matter what. Okay, European Data Portal. This is launched
last month.
Okay. And it is meant to be the central hub for all the different country national data portals. And so it's run by the EU. It comes directly out of the EPSI platform conference. This is kind of like a big deliverable of that whole group. And yeah, it's really, really new.
It only has less than 6,000 data sets right now. So yeah, it's still being populated.
Yeah, and this is one of the big focuses again of the EPSI app that we found out with the EPSI platform is the normalization of metadata across countries. And so, for instance, you know, it's all very good for it to be in England to be MF for male and female, but in Holland it's MV for man, Frau, and I don't know what it is in other countries. And one of the whole challenges that they want to achieve is that is to meet another one of Nelly Cruz's key objectives, is the fact that you should be able to work with the same data, the same app, in different countries. So the EPSI platform in Nelly Cruz specifically is saying that if you open your app in London, England, and you're looking up parking, you open the same app in Barcelona, it should come up and work, because the data underneath it should be normalized across all different countries. And that means also, well, MV, male and female is just one very, very small example, but you can imagine that one of the big discussion points was trying to normalize the business entities. You know, and here you've got a BV and a VOF and a Stichting. In the United Kingdom, you've got a limited company, which is similar to a BV, and you've got a partnership, which is similar to a VOF. And in Italy and Spain, all of these things are different. So if you're going to have a European-wide business directory, you have to normalize all that data, and you have to get it all in the same format, or you have to have lookup tables between. So, you know, one of the big things of the data portal, by bringing together the data from all the different countries, is to try and work out language differences, data, very fine data differences, etc. It's a huge, huge job. And that's what they're trying to do with this European data portal. This one is the Dutch version of the European data portal. Data that I don't know. So
Paul Sauerbrach.
Okay. Oh yeah, Paul Sauerbrach. Okay. I don't know if this will be superseded or it just feeds into the European-wide one.
It doesn't feed into it yet.
Oh, okay, but it is due to feed into it. So eventually this will be the central directory of all European open data, will be the EU one, and this will be like a feeder into it.
But this is where all the data sets are that are available from all the gemeentes in the Netherlands.
Well, basically they should be all in there, but they're not. So if you want to know everything about Amsterdam, you have to go to all the Amsterdam open data portals. Some of them will be in here, but not all of them.
That is true, yes.
Okay. Hagda Overheid, which is an organisation from Lex Slackhouse. And I always thought that this was, I thought Lex was always a bit sort of underground and subversive and sort of data that you shouldn't really have, but it turned out that actually he's kind of like data that you should have actually.
Yeah, but it's an NGO. I mean,
yeah. But,
there's a lot of there's tons and tons of organizations that get money from the government, and this is probably the biggest one that gets good budget from the government to promote open data in the Netherlands.
And they've got specific. They're a little bit subversive in a way that they're really trying to, you know, there's cultural data, etc. But they're really trying to do things like push to open up Zorg data, you know, the health data. And Lex is, I mean, when I meet him, he's specifically like, I think he would love to get data that insurance companies don't want to give you.
But he started talking about that a year ago.
Yeah, so he really pushes and pushes and pushes to try and get stuff which is kind of that people, if somebody pushes against him and he thinks that we should have the data, he's probably more likely to go after that data set. So
he's very proactive in communicating with the government and data owners and creating an agenda to open up data that's not open.
Yeah. Super. European, I know about this one. This one is a Europe-wide portal for indexing all of the cultural collections in Europe. So they have 27 million pieces indexed. And so they don't hold any actual data, but what they do is they take, if you're an organisation like a museum, you can provide your whole collection like on a just the description, the title, and maybe a thumbnail of it. So it's like in a way like a search engine, but it's got an API built on it, so it's great for developers to hook into. And what they've done most, which is most impressive of the whole thing, is they have been doing disambiguous linking of everything. So basically, we recently, well, last week, looked at the Rijksmuseum data, and that's not disambiguously linked. So an example is that, you know, Rembrandt van Rijn, Rembrandt the painter, is in there with 50 different names, because you've got Rembrandt van Rijn brackets early period. So you can't find one reference to Rembrandt the painter. What Europeana have done is you can search the database, and where they've identified Rembrandt the painter, just like Wikipedia, there's a data link to Rembrandt the painter. So you can be sure that if you find first what you want, and it could be a year or a period, you know, they've defined periods such as the Middle Ages or the Golden Age, and so, you know, they have definite definitions of these terms, and you can be sure that all the data that's linked in the Europeana, which is marked the Golden Age, is from that defined period. And Rembrandt the painter is done by Rembrandt the painter, as opposed to Rembrandt the dog. I don't know. All other sort of things. That is a huge, huge task which has been undertaken over many years, and
Since 2008.
2008, and the scale of it is colossal. I'm sure 27 million items have been linked in there.
2,000 data partners.
Yeah, 2,000 data partners. That's, you know, all sorts of museums and collection holders. Open cultural data. Maybe you can talk about this one, Paul, because I'm not so sure about the cultural side.
Sure. This is the Netherlands version of Europeana, basically, in a certain sense. I mean, they don't aggregate data, but they do work actively with museums and other what they call cultural heritage institutions, or the GLAM, which is galleries, archives, and libraries and museums, GLAM. Galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, to open up their data, but there's a lot of issues with licensing and Creative Commons, etc., that they help try to resolve, and they try to encourage the opening of data and content by these GLAM institutions. It's led by Lex, and it's led by Hack the Overheid, and the other bodies work with it, like the Belden Cloud Institute, Love to Belsa, Kennisland, and the Waag Society are all involved in one way or another with open cultural data. And you can find data sets for the Rijksmuseum, for the I Institute, for the Amsterdam Museum, the Amsterdam Jewish Museum, all sorts of data sets are available there.
And I think if you think of if I think of Europeana, they've got a very fixed mission. You know, they've got a mission to index all this data and to do something, you know, a very specific job. I think the open cultural data, they have a lot more wider brief. So if an organisation wants to open its data, I think you can go there and they can provide somebody to come and give you advice or help. So they're much more fluid in there, what they can do. Open Images, which is from, I think it's an initiative of the Belden Cloud Institute,
yes,
even though there's an openimages.eu. Belden Cloud have, when they moved location down to Hilversum, they built a specialist facility to digitise fragile old movies. And so they ended up on a 7-year project to digitise all of their movies. They've done a really good job in indexing them, putting them online, getting them out there. There's APIs that you can connect to them. They're available in MP4 format directly, so that if you want to put them directly in an iOS app, you know, it's like a dream come true on that level. They don't own the rights to everything, so in this portal for movies, there's, I think, 2,700 available. They've got like 17, 18, 20,000 which they can't put online because of rights. But they nevertheless have done a very good job of that. I think they're definitely the European leader in that. They even told me that they're getting movies from the Smithsonian Institute and now being sent over to Holland to be digitised because they've got such specialist equipment in dust-proof areas, in perfect conditions. So, yeah, that's a big player in this market. Open Knowledge Foundation. I know that's CCAN. Maybe you can talk about Open Knowledge Foundation briefly. Do we know anything about them?
There's the global body that promotes opening of data worldwide.
Oh, okay. Most importantly, they make this called CCAN. Has anybody come across CCAN? Yeah, fantastic. It is essentially the Apache of open data servers. So it's open source, you can download it, you can run your own. So if you as a body wanted to open up your data, you could download the CCAN server, you could get your data ready, you could make your own CCAN portal, and then that would very easily feed into the European-wide one, to anybody else's data port. So it's kind of like an open source web server application for serving your open data. That's made by if I go back one, the Open Knowledge Foundation. So that's where they come into it. So Open Knowledge Foundation's got a research function, and this is a sort of concrete deliverable that came out of it. So going down from European level and body level now to sort of more, well, this is still European level, but this is a project level. This is the City SDK project, which is a European-wide project running for 2 years or 3 years?
Till June 2014.
Oh, okay, so it's basically two years. The focus of this project is to try and normalise standards and practices amongst different European cities that are struggling with opening their data. So, for instance, they've got streams of traffic and movement, they've got streams of tourism, of health, etc. And I think what they're doing basically is, in a very simplistic form, if you went to Barcelona and found out they already had a really good working set of data for their health data, they would then take that and see if all the other cities in Europe could apply it so that people didn't reinvent the wheel all the time. One very specific deliverable that they're going to achieve is I think called Open 311. You know about it? Yeah, okay. Open 311 is like a trouble ticketing system, like so that you can raise issues with, just like in a call centre, somebody raises a problem and then you put it in a system. It's a system which is, I think, developed in the United States, maybe even as part of the hack for code for America. And it's aimed at cities, and so basically if Amsterdam had an Open 311 system, then I could complain that the street lamp didn't work. They could put it in their Open 311 system, and then that has got a lot of easily interchangeable formats. So they are going to implement Open 311 in Helsinki, and when that's done, which is in another month, they're going to do it in Amsterdam, they're going to do it in Barcelona, they're going to do it in Istanbul, they're going to do it in Rome. And in theory, those systems should be able to talk to each other. So you should be able to raise a trouble ticket in Helsinki, and somebody in Rome should be able to interrogate it. I don't know what the benefit of that, but if everybody's working on the same system, it's got to be easier for us app developers to then look into it, to use the data, because the APIs will be the same. We could feed trouble tickets into it, for instance. So that's kind of like a specific
or create apps that do feed trouble tickets into the system.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of stuff is going on. If you look at their website, there's a lot of events going on. Amsterdam Innovation Motor. Who knows the AIM? One, two people, three people, four. Okay, so Amsterdam Innovation Motor. This gets more difficult. Well, a guy called Pierre Baron is there, but a lot of initiatives are done from Amsterdam. A lot of stuff starts in Amsterdam in the Netherlands and goes out to other cities because Amsterdam's the biggest metropolis and it has the most money. Amsterdam Innovation Motor, in a way, channels some of that resource and money, and they, in one way, find partners that can do projects on behalf of open city-wide projects. I don't think they have very small staff, I think. It's mainly that they find partners to do work. But yeah, I think their focus is to stimulate innovation. So if there's kind of like new projects coming up, normally the city asks Amsterdam Innovation Motor to kind of find partners and to kind of pre-interview them in a way and to kind of make the business cases and plans. The Waag Society is a society which, already in the 90s, we're talking about the social aspects of the web. They made this digital city, very, very leading. You know, if you look at their history, they're really ahead of the curve. Not just ahead, but really ahead of the curve. So in the end, what they've ended up, the way that we see them in open data, is they often execute a lot of projects. They do a lot of the thinking for government around social aspects of and environmental and societal aspects of open data, amongst other things which they do. So very often you'll find the Waag Society arranging the hackathons, arranging projects, working together with the Amsterdam Innovation Motor on a project. They are involved in the Smart City SDK, they're involved in actually almost everything which we've gone through. Arts Holland.
They're also involved heavily. Well, they created with a Amsterdam Innovation Motor the Open Data Amsterdam portal that has all the data for the city of Amsterdam that's available, and they created the CCAN platform. They test and they advise the city government. This is the way you should go with open data. So they're the leaders in Amsterdam for advising the government and different government departments in how they should handle and distribute their open data.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And I think something which is, something which is important to state here is the fact that they are a project-based organisation, so they tend to get funds for a project, and then their project is over. And we came across this very recently because one of the main open data portals here in Amsterdam was created in a project by the Waag, and now people are complaining about it because it's not always up and it's not reliable, etc. But actually, when you go back to the Waag, you say, they can quite rightly say, well, we were never meant to run this. We created it as part of the project. We got it up and running. We wrote the report, we publicised it. Now it's up to the government or the Amsterdam Innovation Motor or somebody to find a hosting partner to keep this up and running. So they're not, we have to think of the Waag as whatever they do, at the end of that project, somebody needs to take it over. So if whatever they're doing is important and we think there's a community that it has to be maintained after the project, we have to already start thinking 6 months before the end of the project, because the budgets for the city government, you have to already ask a year in advance or 2 years in advance, etc. So, just to emphasise that. This is Amsterdam Open Data, this is the portal, this is the portal I was talking about, right? Yeah. This is where you find all the open data about Amsterdam. Created by the Waag, currently run by the Waag, but it is in the process. I believe they got the budget. I believe they got the budget in January, and they're now putting out to tender for a hosting partner. So I think by about April, this will be transferred out of the Waag onto a proper hosting company that's going to have money to maintain it, have a support person, etc. So it might be a bit dodgy over the next few months.
It's definitely dodgy. But yeah, like for instance, I just to see if they were still alive in the world, I sent them an email asking them a question. I haven't gotten. It was a month ago. So if you email them, don't expect a reply.
Yeah. But also feel secure in the fact that somebody is arranging that to go over onto a proper support party. Amsterdam, as well, we're all members of Amsterdam, or if you're not a member, then you should be. You should be. But on the same level now, Amsterdam is coming into the mix. It always used to be the Amsterdam Innovation Motor with the Waag, and now Amsterdam is coming into the mix. So we're providing. Well, otherwise you wouldn't have written your paper of it. So it's great. We're a member of Amsterdam, and we can all influence this process. Yeah. Eric. So we come down to individual people. This is Eric's avatar, and his GitHub and on your Facebook. I want to emphasise that at the end it comes down to people. So basically, if you want to know about certain aspects of using open data, some of the stuff I've done, some of the stuff Paul's done, some of the stuff Eric's done, and there's other members of Amsterdam who will have done it. So at the end of this little presentation, I'm going to have a call to action for people to send in who has worked with which open data, because it would have been, you know, if anybody wants to work with videos from Belgium Cloud on an iPhone app, they can come and speak to me, and I can probably accelerate that process. I think with other aspects, Eric can accelerate their process, and we would like to know if other people have worked with it so that we can accelerate our own process. So that's going to be an important deliverable. Yeah, this is us, Paul and I. We created from ParkShark the app. We created a whole, what is now a whole platform. This is only a few weeks old, and now we're essentially taking the API that we created for ourselves to power our app. We separated it. We made it into the ParkShark API, which is open to anybody. So if anybody wants to make a competing app to our own one, they can use our API free of charge. Anybody can use it. And we've been kind of going around to different places, and I went down to Antwerp recently to their hackathon, and I made a ParkShark for Antwerp, and now we're talking to Antwerp about whether they would like to pay us to implement ParkShark in their city. So this is where we turn it into a commercial proposition. The fact that even though the data is open, the API is open to developers, they'll probably need us to make it. But in the same way as everything else, we provide the blueprint, so they can make it themselves. We provide all the data formats, but this is where we're hoping to turn the open data into a real commercial possibility in a way. So you can talk to us about that. You can talk to me and Paul about trying to turn open data into a commercial thing. You can talk to us about parking. You can talk to us about Europeana. You can talk to us about Rijksmuseum API.
Build Cloud.
Yeah. So.
Is Amsterdam already paying for it?
No, this is our strategy. We've done well out of Amsterdam. We won a hackathon, we won another prize with the API, so our deal is we do it free for Amsterdam, but they're our showcase.
But technically, it's very difficult to explain, but the parking authority for Amsterdam, which is a for-profit organization called Citian, does pay us, and they have asked us to, and we are delivering an app for them that uses the API. And other entities as well do pay us for consultancy or for customization and integration.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, in a way, it's you know, it's very experimental how to make money out of open data. When we talk at different events, it's always a question that comes up, and we say that really we're in this field, we're kind of pioneering it in a way. We started off with a hackathon win, and then we're now exploring all the different possibilities, and we're quite happy to discuss those and tell people which ones work and which ones don't work, and help people try different things. But in a way, we're kind of experimenting with that whole field. Could be in a couple of years that we say that it doesn't pay. I doubt it. I think it's going to go.
I think the objective also is that we've been very active with the Smart City SDK platform and project, and they've asked us to brief 11 member states of the Smart City SDK project, and they're very interested in ParkShark and the calculation modules and how to promote best practices and widespread use of their parking data in their cities, including Helsinki and Rome and Barcelona. Yeah. And so it is our hope that by the end of the Smart City SDK project, which is June 2014, we'll have distributed the platform to all the member cities.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely the goal for us to try and do that. But it's very interesting when we talk to those other member cities, like for instance Rome and Lisbon, and we talk to them about ParkShark, and these people are city officials who deal with open data and parking specifically. And when we ask them the question, So how do you talk to your developers? Do you have an Appsterdam or do you have a Waag Society in your city? Mostly, well, universally, they just say, I have never spoken to an app developer. I don't even know where to find one. And these are the people that are tasked with opening up the data. And I feel, you can feel genuinely sorry for them because it's almost like they're given a no-win situation. They're from the city, they're told to do it, and they've got no contacts. And Amsterdam is like fantastic in this. I mean, Amsterdam, with their connection through Waag Society originally, and now through Appsterdam and through these other different organisations, I think they are one of the most connected cities where city officials have the shortest communication route to a real app developer than in Europe probably. I mean, it's really stunning if you go to other places and you try and find anywhere else with this kind of this relationship. Yeah, it's a big part of the success here, which is why Amsterdam, I should have put it in here, won the World Smart City. It is this year the World Smart City. It won it in November. In November. So specifically the DIVV, which is the transportation department here in Amsterdam, entered the worldwide competition. It got chosen as the Smart City of the Year. Us, Glimworm, you can come and ask us. And that's the last slide. We just want to have a directory of members of Amsterdam and what data you've worked with and whether you're willing to help other people with that data. So that if people are exploring a data set, they could also come to the Appsterdam website and just send an email, say, hey, look, I'm trying to work with this data set. What do you know about it? Do you mind helping me? So this is kind of like something which I think that we can make ourselves, and that it's only going to be better for all of us to do that. And there's an email address which is the one
opendata@amsterdam.rs.
Yeah, opendata@amsterdam.rs. And so if you send information there saying what you've worked with and who you are, then somebody, me now, isn't it?
Or Olga.
Or Olga.
Yeah.
Hey, Olga.
Hello.
We can maybe get that together, and then we can put it together so that people know who's got what expertise.
Yeah.
So, okay, I hope that was useful.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.